Hi guys, this is Mark, and Michelle would be with us tonight, but she's a little bit under the weather. So she'll be back tomorrow night, and this is an episode of This is Mark and Michelle, just without my better half. But anyway, what we're going to do tonight is talk about, hey Taj, we're going to talk about stagnant liver. All right. Now, for medical medium folks, and truthfully for all you gas folks, this is an important subject because the liver, according to medical medium, and to me this is basic biology, if your liver is dysfunctional, then toxins are going to build up in your liver, and once they build up too much, then they're going to spill over into the rest of your body, your organs, tissues, and that type of thing. Well, when that happens, they just start backing up in different places, start degrading those organs, damaging those organs, and then you run into disease. So what we'll do, I'm going to look up one thing here real quick for you guys. We'll talk about why having a fatty liver is a problem. And high fat diets and this type of thing. Let's see here. Okay. All right. Here we go. So let's start with this. Basically, your liver is one of your biggest detoxing organs in your body. Now, you've heard us talk about that in previous lives, but one of your other biggest detoxing organs is skin. But tonight we're talking about liver. A liver detoxes your blood, and for the most part, and it takes those toxins and holds on to them. Now, medical medium describes your liver as doing you a favor and loving you enough so that it holds on to those toxins as long as it can, even to its own detriment, so that you don't get poisoned by them. And so basically your liver, it processes toxins, dead microbes, so like dead viruses, dead bacteria, dead parasites, other waste material. What it also processes is dead cells, specifically blood cells. And what I mean by process is it breaks them down into smaller molecules so that they can then be passed to the kidneys or into the large intestine to be passed out of your body, eliminated. And so that job is basically, it's the only one doing that job. It'd be like having a huge grocery store and only one cashier, right? So if the cashier has too many people backed up in their line, they're not going to be able to get them out, and the people are going to become toxic. Never mind, a lot of them are toxic anyway. But so again, if your liver becomes like the cashier and is completely backed up, then it's not doing its job properly. And so you get old drugs, pesticides, things like DDT, heavy metals. Liver is full of heavy metals. It can even have too many vitamins. I remember hearing an instance once of somebody dying from hypervitaminosis A. They just had too much they had too much vitamin A in their bloodstream and their liver, and it backed up in their liver and killed them. And so when your liver isn't detoxing because it's full of toxins, they back up in your organs. They back up in your intestines, start causing diseases there, back up in your heart, diseases there, in your brain, diseases there. If your liver was working, you would probably naturally detox the heavy metals in your brain. But if your liver isn't working, then that's what happens. But a lot of those toxins too get stored as fat in your body if the liver can't handle it right away. And so it's really important to learn how to reduce your fat intake, be aware of how much fat you take in. And I've seen people on the medical medium support groups on Facebook talk about if you keep your fat intake under 10% of your total calories. Well, what that means is you have to count up your total calories and then go, what's 10% of that, and keep your total calories of fat under 10%. Well, you can do that, but something that you don't hear usually is that here in the U.S., we have such a high-fat diet. I mean, it's not like we're sitting around eating cubes of fat, but we eat lots of fried foods, we eat lots of butter, we eat lots of oils. And because of that, people here in the U.S. can get what is, and other places as well, if they have high-fat diets, they can get what's called non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. Now, that is where your liver contains anywhere between 5 and 10% fat by weight, and your liver is a very large organ. And so, if it has 5 or 10% by weight, then that is considered a fatty liver. Well, reducing your fat intake is going to make it easier on your liver to process. So, plus cutting out the no foods like meats, dairy, eggs, that type of thing. You also cut down on the viruses and bacteria that overload the liver as well. Now, let's see here. Something I wanted to point out for everybody. One thing the medical medium says, and I found in my own experience this to be true, is that when you eat fat, what happens is your adrenals put out adrenaline to help process that fat and help break it down. Well, when you do that, it puts your body in fight or flight mode, and that helps you put on weight. Another reason that you put on weight. So keeping fat down to less than 10%, or even better, 0, keeps that from happening and keeps your liver from being overburdened. And so, let me close that up. But for those of you who are more interested in learning about the medical medium's view of liver, one of his latest books, and I think it came out last year in October, was Liver Rescue. And as Michelle says, it's like a textbook. There's so much information in it. And I find that interesting. He seems to cover just about everything that can go wrong with the liver in that book. And while I haven't fully read it, I've just thumbed through it. It is definitely a thorough book. But he has an entire, well, I'm going to use the word protocol to help heal your liver. And it's mainly apples and huge amounts of green salads for, I think it's 9 days. Then after that, 6 days. And then I think after that, 3 days. Michelle will correct me if I'm wrong, but it's a very intense protocol to get your liver kick-started into processing. And it helps keep down the fat because there's no fat allowed on that liver cleanse. But when I was on GAPS, and I've mentioned this in past episodes, after about 2.5 years of being on GAPS, I noticed that I was starting to get inflamed. Excuse me. And there are pictures of me with a red face, and I had gained more weight at that point. And it was interesting to note that that high-fat diet, that the GAPS diet is high-fat, high-protein, backed up my liver. And so starting the medical medium diet, we've been doing that for 1 year and 8 months now. Starting the medical medium diet has been awesome because I've lost all that inflammation. I'm cutting down my fat intake considerably. I am not completely successful at being no fat like Michelle is. She's completely disciplined. But the cutting down on the fat has really made me feel better. And so I highly recommend even for you GAPS people, if you found that you have plateaued and haven't seen any symptoms, or haven't seen any gains in a while with your autistic loved one, then consider going to the medical medium diet and starting the cell reduce and the HMDS smoothie, and then having smoothies for your meals the rest of the day and fruit for snacks, because having no fat as often as you can, and for those of you who are eating fat, don't eat any fat until after 4. That will give your liver most of the day to process the fat that you have eaten or from the previous day. Keep your fat in, don't start any fat until after 4 o'clock. And that will really help your liver process. It'll give it a break. But a stagnant liver, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, can really develop into other things. And so getting a jump start on that now, getting ahead of your liver game, so to speak, can really help you heal. So anyway, that is our Stagnant Liver show for tonight. And we will be back tomorrow night. Let's see, what will we be doing tomorrow night? Oh, we're starting It's All About Diet. And we have a few sections under there. We'll talk about the GAPS diet, the medical medium protocol, all natural foods and supplements that Michelle and I have used, supplements on the GAPS that we used, and supplements on medical medium. So anyway, remember, keep doing your celery juice, keep doing the heavy metal detox smoothie, eat as much fruit as possible to keep that liver as free of fat as possible. And we'll see you guys back here tomorrow night at 10:45. See you then.